Hey guys, welcome back to our third video on star rod mapping. Today we're going to go over quickly collision and camera zones. I'm not going to touch too much on collisions, but just enough so that if you're using version 3 for modeling, you don't crash. We're going to mostly focus on camera zones here. So you see I have some collision already. To see your collision and your camera zones in the editor, all you need to do is just press F2 or F3 for cameras. You can toggle these back and forth. So the reason why I say I'm only going to talk about collision so you don't crash is because when you're using version 3, even though it doesn't crash that much, there are some predictable ones. For example, if you try to go into the camera view without a collider underneath and without a camera zone underneath, it will crash. So just keep that in mind if you're using version 3. In the later versions, I believe that's fixed, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. So just to create some collision, there's a lot about collision that, again, I'm not going to cover here. The way you set it up will determine how optimized your map is when it's in game. The more triangles that are in a single collider, the more triangles are going to be activated when you stand on it, which is going to cause more lag. So if I made a collider for this entire model here, it's going to lag a lot because you see there's a lot of triangles. There's a lot of triangles in this entire floor here. So I'll do copy mesh from triangles. You'll see in newer versions, again, you'll do create from triangles, but in version 3 it's from geometry. Just keep that in mind. So I created a new collision for this floor here. Again, it's going to work fine in editor. You're not going to see any lag really. In game, it's going to lag a lot, but for editor purpose, it's workable. Okay, so once you have your collider that you can actually walk on, you need to make sure that you also have a camera zone or you're going to crash. So, easy way to do that is just like when you make models. You just go to your zone section in the top right, you do create new primitive, and you can do, I've never used any other shape for camera zones, I just use planar grids. So, there's probably some reasons to use another shape, but I've never encountered one. And you just want to scale your camera zone to make sure that it fits under whatever you want this camera zone to. So whenever you're above this camera zone, it's gonna use those camera settings. And whichever one is closest to you in height. So this one is, I believe, yeah. Now it's higher than this base one here. This one will play before this one does. But as soon as I walk, say right there, so I'm outside of the realm of it, it will use this one instead. I walk into this one, and uses this one. Simple as that. Okay. Also, make sure, you always want to make sure that your camera zone is facing the right way. So just for safety, just select your camera zone, do normals to camera, and modify selected, like that, and it should work fine. Okay, so now I can press P, go into camera mode to see it. I'm going to select my camera zone I made again, and in your zone section, in the info, in the bottom right, you're going to see has camera data. You just want to check that. And you have a bunch of types here. So right now it's just fixed orientation, and that's fine for basically just walking around like this, if you just want your camera to look like this. There's a bunch of settings. You can adjust your boom. If you hover over this, I believe it tells you exactly, it tells you more information on them. So I'll just give you a little overview here. Let's make this 500 instead. It zooms out a little bit. Make this 14. We'll move it down a little, and we'll make this 2. So you can just play around with these settings until you have something you like. I'm just going to keep it there for now. Your point A and your point B is going to matter for for certain other ones, but it shouldn't matter for this one at all. So there's also look towards point. So now, whenever you move around, it's going to be rotating the camera perspective around the point. And if you want to see that point, first of all, you want to go into your point selection mode, top right. That's what this is for. I'm going to exit full screen with F. And now you'll see my point is right here. So I'll hide this so it's easier to see. There's the point it's looking towards. Now if I want to change where it's looking towards, I just need to move this around. So I want this all the way over here for testing purposes. Alright, so now whenever I move, it's going to move the camera and look at this point where I put it. So it will move around in a circle like this, but if you want it to do it inverted, if you want it to do it the other way, I'll show you exactly how you do that. So you just go into boom, and you want to put a negative sign next to your first boom here. Now it's going to flip the camera around, but no problem. All you need to do is also change this, so invert this, move this down in the bottom left. You see I've moved this down, and now when I move around, it will rotate it the other way. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Boundary camera. My apologies, I don't actually, I've never used boundary camera, so I can't really go too much into it. Follow player, I recommend you don't use this one. I've been told not to. I don't see any reason to use it over fixed orientation. Fixed position and orientation, this is when you want to basically lock your camera in a certain point. So wherever, again, you can move your point around wherever you want, and it will change where it is looking at, just like this. Since I have it at a negative sign, I have it a little weird. I can fix that. Okay, it didn't change it at all. Anyways, okay, so that's a fixed position orientation. You want to lock the camera, look toward point, constrain the line. It's the same thing as look toward point that I showed you, but it will also fix it to a line. I've also never used this one. This one seems to have a bit more of a use case. I've just never had a map where I've needed this very specific type of camera. But you can play around with that, see how it works. Perhaps it will fit the type of map you're trying to make. And I believe there's multiple different points for it too that you can adjust here. Okay, and the last one is one I use quite frequently. Constrain between points. Let's fix this up. So I'm just going to select. So for this one, there's 2 points. There's the red endpoint and there's the blue endpoint, and it's going to move Mario's camera in between those 2 points. So it's going to constrain them between them. You see, I try to rotate this, and it's not quite perfectly straight. And I want to fix that. So in order to do that, I can just go bottom right here, just make sure they're the same values. This one, I'll make this 280, and I'll make this 280 as well. And that will resolve that, so now it's perfectly straight. Okay, so let's say I want the camera to stop when I walk right here. So I'm just gonna, for ease, I'm just gonna move the 3D cursor. So again, middle mouse button, and you'll see the 3D cursor is moved there, so that I know exactly where I want to move this point. Okay, I'm going to move the blue point to around here, so that's very close to right there. Perfect. So now, whenever I try to move past this point, it's going to lock the camera, and it won't go any further. No matter how far I go, as long as I'm on top of this camera zone, it will lock the camera. But you'll see if I walk off it, it will snap the camera back. But the second I come back on, it will go to as far as this point lets it. And then same thing for the other point. I want to make sure that it stops when I get around here, so I can just move this around until I've got a good endpoint that I'm satisfied with. Okay, and then you can also disable the forward motion if you want it to also lock your movement on the z-axis. Just like this. Okay, and that should be pretty much everything for camera zones, I believe. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.